Then dance. Should we make it very day? I want to make it very day, Daddy.
Surely nothing could go wrong if I talk to Ed Key, the developer of Proteus.
Ow! Pins and needles! Ah! Thanks, Ed. Will you finally add guns in Proteus 2 so we can shoot the wildlife? Welcome, Ed, to Electron Dance. We're in a... What are we under?
We're in a Neolithic long barrow, Joel.
A Neolithic long barrow. So you're working on Proteus.
Yes.
And that's hopefully coming out sometime this summer for real. I mean, we've got the beta preview at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, this didn't start out that way, right? It wasn't supposed to be some ambient exploration of a procedurally generated island. It was supposed to be an RPG, right?
Yeah, well, I think it was always going to be something about exploration, about exploring a terrain. Originally, yeah, I was thinking some kind of like sandboxy kind of quest-based RPG, or maybe more kind of towards like a sort of survival gameplay thing, like you're stranded on an island, survive, and then maybe you kind of progress onto other islands that are populated. You know, it was so open-ended and ambitious and kind of ridiculous. And then yeah, so the kind of next phase of it was when I got talking to David about doing some music, and I mean that was really just, you know, I was just anticipating just some single like static loops, just to kind of, well, just because it was completely silent. On his post that he'd made linking to his showreel, he'd mentioned something about being interested in reactive music. Yeah, just over like a couple of emails, we just decided, you know, how about if the sound system was, you know, driven by what was around you, and everything would have like its own little component that it added into the overall kind of like soundscape, and still, I guess, still kind of thinking about it being an exploration game. The way the music evolved would be the kind of reward for exploration. Yeah, it's kind of progressed in that direction pretty much ever since. I mean, there's a few times where we wondered, or I wondered anyway, speak for myself, like whether it needed any more traditional gameplay elements, but then it just, from giving it to people, it seemed like we kind of had something that was much more engaging than I thought it was going to be. So we just kind of ran with that direction and just kept adding content and refining it.
So this is normally when someone's involved with the music for a game, it's normally it's like buying textures and art. It's like someone who's applying a bit of theme over the top of it. But
yeah,
every time I've seen you put something out about, you know, this is Proteus, it's not by Ed Key with music. It's by Ed Key and David Kanega. You're gonna kill me if I pronounce it wrong.
He doesn't mind.
So
I think
this is really an example where David's actually kind of instrumental to how it works.
Yeah, I mean, certainly for everything that's got a musical component to it, or like even, yeah, like I was saying, like even from these very early emails, we were both designing the sound system together, which is obviously, as it turns out, is you know the major system in the game. Really, it's definitely been a collaborative process, rather than just a kind of one way. Here's something, now put some sound on it so it doesn't sound boring.
I mean, I guess the ideas are coming from David as well in terms of how the island is supposed to work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I mean, just take something simple, for example, when you make a frog or whatever, and is it like the idea that, does it sometimes that David comes up with a piece of music and then you think of something to wrap around it, or is it always generally in terms of, I have a wildlife idea, what would that sound like?
I think it's mostly, it goes from me putting something in the game and then David kind of reacting to what he sees and putting some music over the top of it. But it's also gone kind of both ways as an iterative thing, especially when it's not something as simple as just this area will have this loop and blending things in. So things like the frog, to take that example, I can't remember where the frog thing came from. I think I wanted something that reacted to rain, which it does in a subtle way, and something that was on the ground, because there's not that many. There's quite a few flying creatures are quite easy to make because they don't interact with the environment so much. The actual kind of what the frog does, that kind of most of them has this kind of three sets of 3 notes, and that was very much driven by musical ideas from David. So kind of to give it a kind of cadence, and there's lots of the kind of musical things that I don't really understand. but you know, it was certainly the kind of the kind of tempo and things of that interaction, and the musicality of the interaction. In that case, there was a lot of input from David. So whereas things like with trees, they don't do a lot, they just kind of sit there and they add a component to the mix. With the creatures, it's much more of a kind of dynamic, playful kind of interaction, and that goes back to kind of David's stuff that he's kind of written about and talks about as kind of music or games as music. So the kind of musical structures within games, and just a kind of this kind of like playful process.
I think I mean, this is the thing. Today I have to say, I'm just talking with you today. You just every now and then you'll just say something about how something works in Proteus, and I'm going, what, really? I didn't notice that. And it's just interesting how many things that aren't obvious, even though they appear obvious. Look, I move here, this happens, but there's a lot of subtle interactions which sometimes you might not even notice after playing it several times, and you're going to keep on ramping that up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as I was saying earlier, I'm not totally confident that it's worthwhile effort, because I don't know how many people see these things. And also, and I suppose the flip side of that is that I think I need to put something in to encourage people to replay the game, to discover these things. But I think I definitely still want to put, you know, even there's lots of completely unsubtle things that it's very easy to miss, like the certain flying creatures that it's quite easy to kind of breeze through the game and not see them. So there's kind of adding new creatures, and there's also adding kind of new behaviours to existing creatures. So something I might do is for the kind of little fluttery flocks of creatures, I might have something in spring, so you kind of see them in a little kind of grub stage hatching out of the ground, so you get a little bit of another like a prequel to their little main appearance.
It's sounding very close to was it Gabe Newell in Valve? Remember, he said he wanted to add moss, growing moss to Half-Life 2, I think, right. And he was very upset that they cut it out. It's like, yeah, we can add that to Proteus.
No, if you don't want it, I'll put that in. Yeah, I like moss.
You must have looked around to see if anyone else has done something like this, because it feels like no one's really done something like Proteus before. There must be some sort of experimental stuff which is like has the edges of it, but quite as far down as you've gone with it. Is there anything else out there which kind of compares?
I don't think so. I mean, I suppose there's a few reference points, but I don't know if any of these particularly cover everything. So obviously there's Minecraft was kind of a big exploration game, but doesn't have the sort of same musical interaction. Noctis is a procedural generated universe simulator, where you could fly around, land on planets, and you'd find kind of spectacular mountains and dawns and dusks and things. But that had, as far as I know, had no musical component. But that's something a lot of people bring up as a game, as a reference point of a sort of game that's just about exploration. And I mean, the funny one recently was just before it was coming out, when all the reviews for Dear Esther were going up, and everyone was saying, "Oh, it's this game where you can't do anything, but you kind of just walk and look, and you're just kind of wandering around this island." And I was just kind of, but yeah, it's so completely different, and that doesn't, now that I've played it, and now that lots of people played it, no one makes much of a comparison with Dear Esther. And then the other one, I mean, the other sort of recent one, sort of getting this kind of zeitgeisty exploration thing, that was Journey, which I only got to play recently, but that has some, I mean, it's got like beautiful sound design, and it also has this lovely little kind of interaction between characters where you press a button and you make all these little different pings of different pitches and durations, which is like, I mean, that was I really love the game, but that was a really great part of it for me, is kind of making up these funny little imaginary conversations with the person I was playing with. I don't know if that will kind of make its way into Proteus in any form, but it's quite an inspiring kind of like a really kind of loose interaction. I mean, I don't even know if it makes sense in a single player game, if there's any way of doing it, but I don't think there's anything that combines the music and exploration in the same way.
At the moment, we've got a sort of... I think there's a big hunger for games which aren't games. And what I mean by that is, over the last, say, 20 years, we've become more and more refined in making games, particularly mainstream, that are easy to understand. This is what you do.
Right.
Here are the signposts, because it's inclusive. I mean, it enables everybody, not just the people who are crazy hardcore game heads, to get into the games.
Yeah, sure.
And now there are now rejections of that. I'm not going to just say art games, because that's not really entirely it. It's more about we want to have something which feels more real, and not something which feels like a set of rules which somebody set up. Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah, kind of been parcelled out for
so
you. And...
you've got Proteus, for example, and you've got DRS is another one. You don't, although you become more aware, I think, of the rules of how that game plays than Proteus does. And obviously the big example for me is always Cart Life, because although it's definitely built on a stack of rules, you just don't understand them. So all these things, they're all rules based, but we seem to be trying to move away from letting the player know what those rules are. I'm almost thinking that, like you say, Proteus has mechanics, but I'm wondering if that's Proteus, is that what we need to be doing now, the next phase, is to build not systems which are based on all about more complicated rules, but more complicated environments in which their rules are just not so obvious.
Maybe. I mean, I don't like sort of saying that Proteus is a lesson for the future of anything, really. But I don't know. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, certainly Proteus is kind of quite an explicit reaction against the kind of like achievement unlocked culture and having everything kind of explained to you, because that's there's no text in the game. That's this is slightly like peripheral to that issue, but nothing is ever explained to you apart from the controls, and they have to click to start. So, and I think that it's definitely, I've had lots of really good reactions from people about that, and I think it does seem to be quite refreshing for people to not be told, press X to jump, and well done, you defeated the first enemy, or or like found the unlocked the secret of the tomb or whatever, or like a kind of paradoxical aspect of that is that it's not uninclusive by not explaining everything, if that makes any sense. It's almost more inclusive. Like, lots of people have played it who say they don't enjoy, or they haven't really considered playing traditional games. Almost, kind of playing it. Perhaps they're playing it for the music, or just for the, just a slightly kind of like different, nuanced kind of experience. Although, and one of the problems that I've kind of only just become aware of recently is that it still relies a lot on kind of FPS conventions. So I think there's the WSD and mouse controls, and even dual stick controls on joypad, that even though they're kind of second nature to most gamers, are just completely unknown to a lot of people, and it's kind of, I feel like a bit of a kind of an idiot for kind of putting those in there and not explaining it to people, because so my parents were visiting last weekend, and my mum was saying that she thought she had a bad copy of the game because she couldn't move anywhere, she could only look around. And it was just because, I mean, it does say WSD move and mouse, but it's kind of, even on the title screen, it's said in a very kind of gamey kind of way.
Yeah.
And that was a bit kind of, I felt like a bad son for not explaining that. But that's, I really, I want to kind of do some work on that, and it would make me really happy to be able to put it in front of, like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old child who's never played games before, and they can move around.
That was the end. It's the end, Daddy.
Okay, I want to ask you a quick fire round, 20 questions.
Okay.
Just to test you on things which I've just made up.
Right.
Okay, let's start. Do you have any feelings for Braid 2?
I don't.
Okay,
play
that's
to my
correct.
feelings.
Tower defense, yay or nay?
Nay.
Okay, correct. What was your game of 2011?
Joust.
What was your game of the last 2 weeks?
Journey.
What is David's game of the last 2 weeks?
Multiplayerpiano.com.
Multiplayerpiano.com. What the fuck was Braid about?
The lots of text.
Incorrect, nobody knows what it's about. Will you finally add guns in Proteus 2 so we can shoot the wildlife?
No.
Correct. What is the difference between Dear Esther and Proteus in one word?
Colours and music. That's one word.
Yes. Are you a fully experienced rambling hiker?
Yes.
What about the fog stuck in a hole? In the fog, stuck in a hole. In the
fog? Stuck in a hole? In the fog? Stuck in a hole? In the fog? In the middle of the night? With an owl?
Do you like wine?
I like whining.
Whining. Coffee? Tea? It's completely destroyed this set of questions. I can't go into my fake question about do you want to come back to my place for a wrong set of questions. Thanks for destroying that moment. I'm going to put that straight in.
Yeah, I'll wrong question.
What are your thoughts on The Path?
It's a bit linear.
Okay, correct. Portal, cake, whatever. Are we over this or do we deserve Portal 3?
I haven't even played Portal 2, so I don't deserve Portal 3.
Okay.
Until I've finished my main course.
Correct. Who is your favourite male video game character?
The crabs.
The Crabs. Okay, your favourite male video game character is Crabs. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Sorry. Well, I was going to ask you about your favourite female video game character.
The owls.
Owls? No, incorrect. The answer is GLaDOS. What is your favourite video games blog?
It's that one with protons or neutrons. Proton Song.
Okay, thank you. And what did Electron Dance post about this week?
Something about parents and escort missions.
Very good. That was last week.
You didn't post
this week. Yesterday, I posted something about gaming addiction.
Oh right. Oh, I should read that.
Is playing Skyrim worth a shipping delay in Proteus?
It's already happened, but yeah, I've absorbed it into the schedule. I think I've weaned myself off Skyrim now.
It's about time. Tim Schafer. I'll start it so I'll finish. Tim Schafer or Richard Hoffmeyer?
Well, see, Richard Hoffmeyer hasn't given me any ideas for Proteus, unlike Tim Schafer. So at the moment, I'm going to say Tim Schafer because he's been a bit more constructive.
Okay, well, I'll tell Tim that when I interview him, whenever. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can see what you can be. Let go of what you have been. See the world through a different set of eyes. If you can face the future.
Whew. So, how did you get into games?